Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy,
And I'm Justin.
and we got some exciting automotive news today in regards to the brand new Mercedes SL, the Ford F100, an electric crate motor. Well, not the F100, that's a concept car that they made, but there is an electrical crate motor that you can buy from Ford directly. Toyota brings a bunch of cars to SEMA. I mean, it's SEMA week, so there's a lot of SEMA vehicles, along with the Chevy. They put a beast concept, which Dustin really loves because he has it on the background. Audi put out the new A8, which, let's be honest, it looks exactly the same, but we'll get to that. And Honda Pilot, there's a new TrailSport edition. But most importantly, at the end, we're going to talk about our soft roader project or off-road project or overland project, whatever you want to call it. It's our cheap budget off-road rig that we bought.
Four by
Finally,
four for 4K. Almost 4K. A little over 4K.
4K US. Like, so the first thing, let's talk about that SL first here. So they call it the new edition of an icon. Okay, so SL's been around for a long time. There's a really good history behind the SL name itself, and without going to like all the details, quite like the SL up until the previous generation, which was pretty watered down, right?
Yeah, the last 10 years haven't been strong for the SL, but they have been for Mercedes, right? We've got the SLS, the AMGs, and so the SL kind of faded into the background. Um, it's not the most exciting car. It is kind of the old man's Mercedes Roadster, but yeah.
Yeah, ever since I think it was 2012, it got really boring. The one before it, the R230 from early
That was an
2000,
icon. Yeah.
that one's pretty good, especially that black edition, the black series, like with the huge over fenders. Like that was really, really cool. But yeah, the last one, the R231, let's be honest, it really wasn't that great. It really just looked like they took the R230 and they put new front and rear end
They
on the
put the
SL.
SLK fascia onto the SL,
Yeah, and then
and you can't even tell the two apart. If you're standing 15 feet away, you can't tell which one is which.
yeah,
Even the interior was very similar.
I don't know about you, but my favorite SL was always the R129. So the one before that, the late 80s to early 2000 model. It was classic Mercedes look. I thought that one looked the best, and of course you can get that with that big V12. I think there was
The
the
Hammer
SL70, yeah, the Hammer, 70 or 73. It was a 7 liter or
73, the Pagani
7.3.
one.
Yeah, it awesome car. But this brand new R232, right? Like, or yeah, 232. It's a it's a departure from what the SL was, but is back to I think what the SL should be. It is now like a luxury performance vehicle. It's a 2+2 as well. Then there's two options. You can get the SL55 or the 65. Both are powered by a 4-liter twin turbo V8. You can get up to 577 horsepower in it with the 9-speed 4MATIC and 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds. Redonkulously fast. And not only is it fast, like the interior looks like the S Class. And that's really what the SL was, right? It was the most you can get in a Mercedes, it not only in performance, but as well as luxury.
Yeah, I mean the SL was for many years the flagship, and it, like I said, it's kind of fallen into the shadows. It's not even the flagship anymore, I would say. It's kind of mid tier now because around 100K, 120K, there's a lot of Mercedes models you can get, and the SL starts, I think, around there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, no, SL stands for Sport Light, and it's not that sporty, nor is it light anymore. Right? They've done a few things with this generation. Obviously, it's a a few big things. Now it's a 2+2 configuration. That's the only way you can have it. Just like the LC 500, it's a useless rear seat, but maybe they put it there for insurance or regulation reasons.
Yeah.
It's it's you put your duffel bag in the back and you get to put a seatbelt over it. That's how I see it. The soft top now, rather than the folding hard top, saves a lot of weight and space. I think soft top is kind of the way to go, personally.
Yeah, we see a lot of vehicles going towards soft tops.
Mhm.
Like the new 4 Series is a soft top now. Um, the 8 Series is a soft top. Like it just makes sense. And soft tops are so good. They're so quiet on the inside now. This is a
Yeah.
triple layer, so I assume it's going to be just as good.
Yeah, it's really not hard to make a soft top quiet. It's just materials, right? And
Mm.
and the folding mechanism for the soft top is saves a lot more space because it is more flexible than a rigid hard top. Um, yeah,
Yeah, about 15 seconds to fold that soft top down. And you can do it while traveling up to 37 miles per hour, about 60 kilometers per hour. So even like city streets, you can pop that top down or up on your, I mean, if you're on the highway, starts raining, you don't have to completely stop. I guess you can slow down on the far right lane and maybe pop that top up. 15 seconds isn't too long, I guess.
mm,
But you get active rear steering. There's ceramic brakes as optional. And that interior, I gotta say, that interior looks absolutely beautiful. It's very up to date Mercedes with that
yeah,
portrait style infotainment screen and the full digital cluster. Like it looks really, really good.
yeah. I like that. It's a little bit different from other Mercedes models. I think that that is important because the overall styling elements, a lot of it you can see, like the exterior styling, you can see that on the base model, like the CLA. But when you get inside, it is similar, but noticeably nicer.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if they're gonna bring it back the SLC because like if they miniaturize this, it's basically a SLC. I,
Make
I,
it
I
two-seater.
yeah, I mean, there's not going to be a market for it. Let's be honest. That's why the SLC kind of died off. But also the SLC was kind of bad as an overall car. But
It was
uh,
bad from day one, but it was popular.
it
The first generation was pretty popular.
it was really popular. The SLK when that came out, yeah, hardtop convertible. A lot of people loved it.
Mhm.
My previous coworker actually had a yellow one, and she always
It
parked
seems
it
like they're
outside.
all yellow. They're either yellow or silver, but
Silver,
a lot of yellow ones.
absolutely, absolutely. I don't know. I like this SL because I do have a press suite from Mercedes. I should be able to get one in the future, maybe.
I think it's irrelevant because the LC is still prettier in my books.
LC is very pretty, and the LC's the 5 liter V8 that's in it, it makes a better noise. Although this will probably deliver better performance, but
I don't think performance matters in
it
this
doesn't
segment
matter.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. In this
I want it to
class,
look good. And the thing is, okay, so I always talk about brand design and consistency and brand identity. The LC is such a winner in terms of design because it looks like a Lexus, but it also looks like a flagship and it looks different from every other Lexus. Like you don't confuse that for an RC or an IS. Um, it it is different enough but also similar enough and still looks good while doing all of that, whereas Mercedes for the last 5 6 years, I think it's just too much copy and paste for me. It's just we'll use this grill, these headlights, these bumpers, and I feel like from 20 feet away they all just look the same.
yeah, I would agree. But that's really all I want to talk about the SL for. We got more exciting information to go over,
Hmm.
like this F100 Eliminator concept truck. So Ford, of course, they're at SEMA this year with a bunch of their vehicles. There's a really cool looking Maverick that's lowered, big fan. But this one I think is the most popular one. So this F100 is essentially well, an F100, so an old school Ford pickup but it has a full electric drivetrain from the Mach E GT. So this is actually really, really cool. You can buy the motors from Ford directly. It's available for you for 3,900. Um, from what I can understand, that is just the motors. So everything else that you need is like additional on top of that. So don't think of, oh, I can build an electric car for under 10 grand. That's not going to happen. You need a lot more than that. But it's super cool, right? Because like for the longest time, you can buy Coyote V8s, you can buy LSs as drop-in crate motors. We're finally seeing electric motors as crate motors that you can throw in. How
Yeah, I
cool is
think
that?
for hot rodding, that is the idea, but this is also the future and very affordable. Like you can't get, with any crate motor, you still need to get, engine management, transmission, all your
Fuel
fueling and
tank?
everything. In this case, you don't need fuel, but you need, similar idea, but it's cheap to get this kind of power figure out.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, maybe we'll see electric hot rods in a very near future.
yeah. I really like the idea of this, but let's go over Toyota. So Toyota has also brought in a bunch of stuff to SEMA, as it is, I think, actually it's almost the closing of SEMA because I think it's just until Friday. But they brought in a few cool vehicles. The coolest one is the Taco-Zilla. The Taco-Zilla is a Tacoma camper overlanding rig. It looks amazing because it's very retro in its kind of vibe. So the color scheme on it, it's like 80s Toyota.
Yeah.
They took the pickup bed completely off the rear end and put in a full camper that's
Yeah.
welded into the body itself.
Yeah, it looks very Winnebago from the rear.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
So there's a winch in the front, there's a snorkel in the back, there is a full bathroom in there. It looks amazing. Like the sleeping quarters above the bed, like everything that you would need in an overlanding rig is here. Like while the outside is like older 80s style look, the inside is very, very modern. I absolutely love this.
Hmm.
I think this is like, well over 200K in terms of, what this is actually going to cost.
Well,
But
and my concern is not the price because RVs, they're always expensive.
mm,
My uncle has a F550 that's converted in a similar way where you have a crew cab, but then you can actually go through the middle, which is kind of cool.
oh,
But that's the difference with the F550 is that's designed for incredible payloads,
mm,
whereas a Tacoma is kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum as far as pickup trucks go. And so adding all this extra weight, having room to seat four with a dining table, I don't know how straight that frame is gonna stay.
for
Knowing how
long.
Toyota builds, as much as I love Toyota, the Tacoma is not the strongest pickup truck to be doing this for. And if you consider that people aren't using F-150s or 1500 Silverados or Rams for their camper conversion, there's a reason they're using heavy duty trucks.
Mm,
I don't know if this is going to inspire the wrong type of uh build and then we see campers out in Moab on
with
a
twisted
Tacoma
frames.
platform with a twisted frame. um yeah, because you need a heavy duty platform to do a proper, as they like to call it, a micro house.
Mm,
Yeah.
you definitely do. That's why they have the Tundra. Perfect segue. So they also brought the TRD Desert Chase Tundra. This is their vision of, throwing a lot of parts to the Tundra may look like. So there's big general grabbers on here, TRD bumper, well, not a TRD bumper, but it's a steel bumper, a tubular bumper with like really beautiful control arms that's on the bottom. It has Baja lights. Like it looks amazing. How much of this is actually gonna, people are gonna use and buy? Probably not that much. But the lift that's on this and the wheels and tires combo, I think it's perfect for the truck because we said in the past that the Tundra's wheels and tires combo, they look dinky. They look kind of small. These are definitely a lot better. I'm trying to see the 37s.
Oh,
Wow,
nice.
37-inch General Grabber X3. So yeah, they're huge tires,
Yeah.
and they fit the vehicle so much better than the 33s or whatever they come with.
33s usually, yeah. And so I think it's just the way the Tundra fender flares are cut, and because they're in black, it makes it look like there's a gaping hole in the side of the body. When you put 33s on it, it looks odd. The TRX and the Raptor both can fit 37s. I'm not sure about the GM model, but yeah, no, 37s on a street truck is awesome. Like it, and it's not that, how much of this is going into production, but it's just to inspire people. Hey, you can modify your Tundra this way,
Mhm.
and that's the whole idea of SEMA.
Well, other than Bluetooth drive shafts, um,
Not at the manufacturer level. Don't. Yeah, I wouldn't base any build off of what a lot of the vendors are showing at their booth, especially if it's not the vendor building the vehicle themselves. If they're just finding some kid on Instagram that has a following and like, hey, you want to be at our booth? Those ones, there's a big range in terms of quality of builds.
yeah,
But I think after we go through the Toyota builds, we'll see something that's really special.
yeah, absolutely. Another pretty cool one is the Tacoma overlanding concept. This one is more true to life of what you can do with the Tacoma. So steel bumper, you got, I think these are 33s. Doesn't say, it's 285 70 17.
Yeah, those 33s.
33s. Uh, with a tent on the back, rack on the top, and some tracks for when you need traction. Like this is more true to life of what a Tacoma build would be.
Yeah, looks
So it's
very Australian, if that makes sense. The way the bumper,
the
the
bumper, yeah,
snorkel, it's very well. It is an ARB bumper after all.
it is, yeah. I think that one's the most true to life of what they would, what we'll likely see on the road.
This
Um,
one is.
this one I like as well. This is the Tundra with all the accessories that you can buy from Toyota.
Hmm.
This one I like the most because, or sorry, I like just as much as the Tacoma because it's relatable. They have a bunch of these toolboxes in the bed. You got the little step ladder, but the best part about this is just the wheels. They have the right wheels for it, and the tires has been sized up.
Yeah.
I believe they're still general grabbers. It doesn't say exactly which size, but it's definitely been sized up to fit the overall body of the vehicle a lot better.
Yeah, I think it's probably like a 35, which is again a lot of tire. That's a stock Raptor size, stock Rubicon. So it's a big tire, and the 3-inch lift just makes it look so much muscular. Like even though it's got that bright grill, it still looks cool. Like
Yeah.
the normal Tundra at the stock height just looks a little bit off. This one it just looks grown up. Like it doesn't look too boy racer or
Mhm.
like whatever the truck equivalent of boy racer is. But yeah, I think it's a simple lift, but
Yeah.
it's effective, and it's got the TRD off-road package, so it has those goodies like the crawl control, rear locker, and stuff like that. That makes it kind of legitimate off-road too.
And I like that they use a TRD off-road, not a TRD Pro.
Mm,
Like, yes, I know everyone wants a TRD Pro because it's the Pro. You get everything, but this one's a lot more affordable. And if you're doing a lot of these aftermarket things on it, you can kind of make it your own TRD Pro in a way.
yeah, I'm not sure how the TRD Pro in the States is pricing wise for the Tundra, but here in Canada, the TRD Pro Tacoma makes no sense because it's $20,000 more than the TRD Off Road for very minimal added capability. In the States, a TRD Pro is only about 5 or 6 grand more. So
Mhm.
I don't understand that, but everyone who buys a TRD Pro, same thing. Never off roads, talks about depreciation and resale all day long. I don't respect TRD Pro whatsoever. Like, I think it drives home the wrong message selling a Tacoma for 70K because you can't use it as a normal pickup truck. You can't use it to move people because it's cramped. You can't off road it because it's too expensive. And so just get the off road and be done with it. So I think you hit the nail on the head. get the off-road.
Mhm. Or when you get the off-road and you're like, I wish I can carry just a little bit more. Well, Toyota has a concept for that because they put out the TRD Sport Trailer Ultimate Overlanding Trailer.
It's a short bed.
So, so what they done is they're like, hey, we have a lot of Tacomas that we can't sell. The front half of it is really no good to anyone. How about we cut off the back end and we put it as a trailer? Okay, not literally, but it looks like that. So it's essentially the pickup bed itself. They put it onto a trailer. You got the same like the TRD wheels, general grabbers on there. There's a bunch of cases on the front, Yakima roof tent on it. Like it looks so cool. But I'm just thinking this thing will be quite heavy for the Tacoma to be pulling in like real kind of more off-road scenarios, like more rock crawling scenarios. I don't think a Tacoma is going to have a good time pulling this.
I don't know. I think this will probably be about 2,000 pounds. The Tacoma can tow about 6,000. It'll be fine. But my question is, why use the short bed? I know Tacoma drivers are generally very short, but and like it's not. I'm not even just like stereotyping. Like I know, like you have to be short to fit. If you're 6'5", you do not fit in a Tacoma.
You're not comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, you can fit in other mid-sized trucks, just not a Tacoma. Um, One of the odd things whenever you look at the aftermarket, when you do the campers, or I don't know what you call it, the rooftop
The
tents and
roof
whatnot,
tents.
with the short bed, is it has a weird overhang, because the short bed is not really meant for that tall of a, or that long of a camper, because it's only 5 feet long, which it's so impractical because the Tacoma has probably the worst bed in the industry. And at least give them the long version of it so it's a little bit more versatile, but it's cool. I don't know. I think all car guys love when you see a car towing the rear half of itself. Like
Yeah.
just that, seeing double is just so cool. But
I
yeah, next time around I would go long bed.
I I do okay. So I think the reason why they went short bed and then put the boxes in front is just because of overall trailer length. Like departure
Mm.
angle with a trailer hitch, it's already going to be reduced, and then you got the trailer behind you to pull up. I think they probably want to make it a little bit shorter or as short as possible while still being functional. I think that's really why they went with the short bed here. But I think it's super cool what Toyota has brought to SEMA this year. We talked about what Honda brought to SEMA this year as well, and we talked a little bit about Ford, but I think Chevy definitely is rocking this
This is
game.
something insane. Like everyone's commenting, this looks like a warthog, uh, from Halo.
Halo, yes.
Yeah,
Do you not play games? Jeez.
I don't. I have Halo games. I just never opened them.
Yeah,
It came with my Xbox or whatever.
what a
But
waste.
but no, it's so cool. This is called the Chevy Beast. It's based off of the Silverado, but it's shortened, and it's got like a tube frame body on it, and no doors, just tubular doors, if you want to call it that, just so you don't fall out. It's got the C7 Z06's LT4 engine, so 650 horsepower, supercharged. And it looks actually very similar to the Hummer, to me.
Why did they put in the C8 Z06 engine? I mean, they have it.
I think maybe that because it just came out, and maybe the characteristics are different. I think flat plane crank, you're looking for that high revving,
High revving, yeah.
whereas the older
Hey,
engines were
if this is a rock bouncer, a high revving V8, it's perfect.
true. If you're flying through the desert at 100 miles an hour, maybe it makes sense. But yeah, no, this thing is so cool. It's got 37s as well, I think,
Yeah.
on beadlock 20s. So
They don't
even
even
though
look
it's
like
a 20,
20s.
yeah, like people are like, why would you ever put 20s on an off-roader? Like, look at them. Like, you still got a foot of sidewall, um, like 16-inch travel in the rear, I think, 45-degree approach, 46.5-degree departure.
That's really impressive.
It's pretty impressive. Like, I I'm hoping that this is a teaser for something to come from Chevy because Ford's back in it with the Bronco, and I know they have the Hummer coming, but the Hummer is big. Like a Hummer is a big
Hummer's
boy.
huge, yeah.
It's not really meant for the type of off-roading that a lot of people want to do. It's very capable, but it's just a little bit too big for a lot of people. We have the ZR2. ZR2 decent off-roader for sure, but this just takes it to that Rubicon level, right? That Rubicon or whatever Sasquatch level and beyond, obviously, because it's a SEMA build. But tone it down a little bit. We got to imagine it a little bit toned down. I can see this being some kind of street version, obviously with full doors and stuff,
Yeah.
something to compete with the Wrangler. Because, like, why not, right? Like an off-roader, Wrangler has been doing so well for the last 2 decades almost. Well, I'll say ever since they introduced the unlimited trim, everyone wants the Wrangler. That's been 15 years of that. Bronco is hopping on that bandwagon, and everyone wants a Bronco. Um, almost everyone. But I don't see why Chevy doesn't offer something like this. Based off of Silverado, don't take the beast too seriously, but we'll tone it down back to normal 5.3 or 6.2 with the
Yeah,
Silverado
I think the
base.
5.3 will be a smart idea. I don't think it
Yeah,
needs 6.2. Like if you're
even their base engine is plenty. I
yeah,
think
the
for
2.7, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Other cool things that they have brought to SEMA, the 632 cubic inch V8 delivering 1,004 horsepower, 876 pound-feet of torque. This is something that you can buy as a crate engine. I'm thinking, our next build after our Overland build, maybe we can look into this. Maybe we'll throw it into a golf cart or something.
Or we can just combine, figure out how to put this
try to put it.
sideways into our Overland build,
I think
which we have not revealed yet. Stay
I
till
think
the end of the show to find out.
I think we can put it in the back. The rear seats, we can take them out. It's a very easy to
It's a very
disconnect the
roomy
rear.
rear seat.
Yeah, maybe. Of course, they have the Z06 as well as a Corvette Stingray with a bunch of carbon fiber bits. There's the Copo Camaro, the ZR2. Those are cool. But I think you would like this one the most. It's the Tahoe Z71 overlanding concept because I know how much you like that Expedition Timberline edition. This is basically the same thing except in a Yukon or in a Tahoe, I should say. Looks really, really cool.
I really like this Gen Tahoe. When it came out, I was like, do I sell my F-150 and get a Tahoe? But it's too expensive.
It's quite expensive. There's also the Colorado Z71, but no one really cares about the Colorado anymore.
Yeah, they've done the Colorado Z71, so why are they doing it again?
There's this Suburban Street concept, which is just a blacked out version of their Suburban. Looks a little lowered. There's 24-inch wheels on it. Sure. There's also the High Country Midnight concept, also another blacked out version of the Silverado. That's fine. There's a Project X, which is a 57 Bel Air. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Some cool cars that the OEMs are bringing to SEMA this year.
Yeah,
I think
notice it's all trucks basically.
it's
And then
always
obviously a
Corvette and Camaro. Like, yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? Bring a Chevy Spark and be like, hey, look. Yeah, they're not. Actually, this one's pretty cool.
Do they even make cars anymore?
They... Well, according to them, yes, but according to everyone who buys cars, no. Speaking of, do they make cars anymore? Audi. Audi, if you don't know, they make cars. There's the A4, A6, A7, A5, A8.
Why would you not go in
6.
order?
Because I forgot. Because I forgot. All right, let's go in order.
There's a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and an 8. There you
Oh yeah,
go.
they do have no. Oh yeah, they do have the three, right? Three, four,
It's not that.
five,
Why would you
six,
go
seven,
in
and eight.
that order?
Because I was going through their sedans first, and I was going back onto the sportbacks. Don't worry, it doesn't have to make sense because
Uh,
Audi doesn't make sense. All right, here's the thing: you basically can't buy an A8 or A6. Like if you walk into a dealership and you're like, "Hey, I want one," they'll be like, "Oh yeah, cool. Here's an order form. Fill it out. We'll get you one in a few years."
yeah.
Like
Well, the
that's
great thing is that's with any car now. You can't get a
well,
RAV4 for.
no, yes, now it's a little different, but this is before
Yeah,
this whole chip shortage as well.
yeah, no.
But for 2022, there's a brand new A8, which some people may
Is it
care
brand
about.
new or is it a facelift?
I don't, they
I
say
think it's a facelift.
it's brand new,
It's
but
not much of a facelift either. Like if you were to just cover the lights and you tell me this is a '04, I would believe you because even the interior shape is the same as before from
and
2003. Like it's got that obviously it's got the new infotainment, but that slab and then
hey,
and then a little narrow console right below it.
so in the blurb they say it's new. I'm just reading what the blurb says. Obviously, it hasn't changed since the introduction of the A8. Like this A8 and the 2000 A8. Let's go back 20 years.
The transporter
Yeah,
S8 that
the
we all know and love.
they look the same. Let's be honest. But what is different is under the hood. So there
It's a
are.
facelift.
I'm
I confirmed it's a facelift.
that yeah, completely makes sense. Oh, here's the milestones of all your. The 2021 model facelift picks up the success stories of the past. Success story, oh Jesus! Thank you, Audi.
It's like always the story of the A8, the tagline is always last because there's always a Mercedes, the 7 Series, which there's been hits or misses, but always last is the A8.
I'm actually curious if the Genesis G90 has been outselling the A8.
Oh, I don't. No, I don't think so.
Sorry, maybe not outselling. I don't think you'll outsell it, but in customer satisfaction, because like it makes sense. The G90 is quite a bit less and offers about the same. But the A8 and the AAL, as well as the S8, there's a few new engine choices now, or sorry, same engine choices. So you got the same 3-liter turbo V6, 335 horsepower, or you can get that 4-liter twin turbo as well. The S8 makes 563 horsepower, so you get a little bit more power out of that if you want. Unfortunately, unlike the good old days, you don't get the Lamborghini V10. It's a twin turbo V8, which is completely fine, I guess.
Nice. So this year, last year, 2020, the A8 outsold the G90 in the US by 300 units. 2,072 G90s, 2,375 A8s.
Okay, here's the thing.
So
That's not a lot.
it's not, well, in Canada, we've sold 37 so far this year of G90s,
Mhm.
and we sold 59 A8s. So that is percentage wise, that is quite still a big margin on the A8. Where credit's due. I don't know anyone. I know one person that keeps buying them actually. Like
What's wrong with them?
exactly. Exactly. Like why do you keep buying this car? Like there's nothing exceptional. Well, maybe that was always the appeal with the A8, wasn't it? Was that
It was the understated
it looks like
performance.
an A4. And
Yeah,
then it's like you can ride that wave, I guess, till you die, but
yeah. It's not really anything that's remarkable in it. What I wanted to say actually, the Audi, like the amount of Audi dealerships, vastly outnumbers Genesis. So the ability for you to buy one, it's a lot higher as well. So the fact that yes, the G90 hasn't outsold it, it's less, but the fact that it's kind of close,
Hmm,
right? With
fair.
very, very few dealers, right? Because even in the lower mainland, there's actually only one real Genesis dealer.
but they concentrated because like yeah, there might be an Audi dealer in like Edmonton or like Moose or I don't know, maybe not Moose, like Regina, Saskatchewan. There may not be a Genesis dealer out there, but like
No,
generally speaking, your market is the big city, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. You've got these bases covered because people in the boonies are not buying A8s and
yeah,
you know. So I don't think sheer number of dealership does not necessarily matter, especially with an over $100,000 purchase.
yeah, that's true. Back to reality. Honda has updated the Pilot for 2022.
It's so ugly. The wheels, the wheels are so ugly.
We'll get to that. Calm down, Justin. We'll get to that. So the Honda has updated 2022. So the base model is now the Sport. You get 20-inch wheels as standards. And according to Justin, they're really, really ugly. Are they 20s? Yeah, they're 20s. They're enormous. Let me scroll down here. See if
They're
I can.
worse than they're probably the worst wheel I've seen on a Pilot.
Yeah, they're not great. But the more interesting one, the one that I mean, you're not gonna like either. It's the TrailSport. So we
These
saw
wheels are better.
they're 18s. They fit the vehicle better. So the TrailSport, as you may know, is the was introduced with the Passport. Essentially, the Passport TrailSport was the exact same height as the regular Passport, and it came with I was going to say AT tires. They're not. They're passenger tires with kind of knobby look on the outside.
Sidewall.
Yeah, that was really it. Oh, and there was some black cladding around the side. That was really all that was added. There's a Trail Sport version of the Pilot. From the blurb that I saw, you get the lifted suspension height. So you get 1 inch of suspension height. You get 18-inch wheels, and you get that weird passenger tire with AT looking sidewall, but you don't get fender flares. That's optional.
Mm,
So like, I mean, it's
so it's really just a wheel and tire package.
like as you look here, it looks exactly the same as the other Pilots, other than it's slightly higher. It's an inch higher with 18-inch wheels and tires.
What?
Yeah. So there's your depressing news of the day.
Yeah, as
Um,
if the Trail Sport was not a disappointing enough addition as is.
to the yeah. So according to the blurb, and above to the EXL Navi, you get interior ambient color. It's amber rather than I believe it's blue on the regular one. The seats, they say Trail Sport on it. There are black roof rails. I know the EXL Nav has roof rails. They're silver, so you just get them blacked out.
The
And
Sport also has the base model also has black roof
blacked out, yeah.
rails,
And then the front grille is also blacked out. So
which the base model also has.
if you're looking at it, the Trail Sport is 51,620 Canadian dollars. The EXL is 49,620. Buy the EXL. Like
Yeah,
there's really no advantage of going with the Trail Sport.
$51,000.
Yeah, for
This
2,000,
car is so old too.
it is for essentially 2 grand. You're getting smaller wheels and tires. Well,
Yeah.
smaller wheel, same size tire, which the 20s and the 18s, like if you compare them price to price, 18s will cost you less than the 20s would. So you're not really getting anything there. And the blacked out bits, you can visit my friend at Justin at Overdrive. He has Plasti Dip that he can sell you, and you can make the bits that you want black. Like there's really no advantage of going with that Trail Sport.
It's weird because the Sport model also has the black mirror, the black grille, the black roof rails.
Yeah.
And
So I mean,
so you're paying more for the same,
basically,
and I mean, yeah, this car was already facelifted in 2019. Now we're going on to the 6th year, which is for a Japanese manufacturer that is long in the tooth. 6 years.
we talked about this before. Honda's entire model lineup it's pretty disappointing. Other than the new Civic, I am a fan of the new Civic sedan. I haven't seen the hatchback in person, so I have to judge later on. But the entire lineup, it's desperate for a refresh. The Accord is kind of old now. The HRV, the CRV, the Passport, Pilot, they're all just kind of bland. I do like that new Ridgeline front end though.
Do you? I think it's
I
trying. I kind of preferred the old one, to be honest.
the first gen or
The
the pre
second
facelift.
pre-facelift,
Uh,
yeah, like it's more true to what it is than
I
trying to be something it's not.
I don't mind that it's more upright. It looks more truckish to me, but I mean, other than that, there's really no difference.
Great truck, still.
I
Not
I
gonna deny it.
I think the Ridgeline is the best truck you can buy for someone that lives in Vancouver. You if you're not doing truck things, like if you're not constantly towing boats, constantly hauling, I don't know what, hay, rice in your example.
Yeah. Well, I
Like
mean, and no, even if you're towing a boat, it's more than enough. Like a little small boat,
smaller
like a
boat, yeah, yeah,
20-foot boat with a trailer, it's like 2,000 pounds.
yeah.
Like it's
If you don't need 10,000 pounds of towing capacity, the Ridgeline is actually a really good truck. It rides like
yeah.
a car. It drives like a car. It's probably the best part about it. You can park it like a car because it's not that big.
Has a trunk,
Yeah, it has a
has a
trunk,
good back seat.
has amazing back seats for the size because you can actually fit people in here, unlike the Tacoma. There's nothing wrong with the Ridgeline. I actually really like it. I actually wanted to buy one.
The problem with the Ridgeline is not enough people buy it, so we cannot afford them used because they're the ones that are on the market that we can afford are always beat to crap. So yeah.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue to our off-roading project.
Drum roll. Well, actually, no. Why don't we talk about the process a little bit more? We
Yeah,
talked about it last week. Um, there are a few leads that we went on. We talked about the Forester. Forester is definitely one of the cars that I wanted to get because the second and third gen Foresters, good ground clearance, good all-wheel drive system, good aftermarket support, but every Forester either had a lot of issues, people weren't replying again, um, and it's just like I just don't trust the Forester enough. I've seen some pretty bad examples with really rotted out subframes. I don't know if they're Alberta cars or something, but
but then one
uh,
thing scared you even more after that.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, one of the Foresters. Well, I know a Subaru specialty shop here in Richmond. I'm not gonna name names, but um, I saw this Forester. I'm like, it recently had like $3,000 of work done, and I asked the guy, I'm like, "Is this one of your customers?" And he's like, "Yeah, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole." Basically, is what he said. It had a million, 12 engine lights, and a million problems.
Yeah, and then we started looking because you, of course, being at Overdrive, like you see all these cars that come in, and you have
Mhm.
documentation on how much time it takes to work on something. I remember you
Yeah.
looked at a Forester, and there was one part that required like 5 hours to do, or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we have a software called All Data. Most shops will have either All Data or ShopKey Pro. They're just typical, what a service advisor would use to quote times. So another car we looked at, the Forester actually was not bad. The Forester naturally aspirated engines were not bad. Like changing a spark plug on a Forester naturally aspirated is 1 hour job. On a turbo, it's like a 3 hour job. The Grand Vitara was the one that scared me
Mm.
because my brother was a Suzuki mechanic for a couple of years. He's like, these are really good cars, they're reliable. Um, but then I looked at it, and the few on the market under 6 grand all had a few minor issues, right? Like cruise control wasn't working, and stuff like that, O2 sensor and stuff like that. And I just looked at like, oh, just changing a water pump is an engine out job. It's a 12-hour job. And my brother's like, I've never seen them fail. But in the event that we need to change something on that thing, it's engine out, which means you're
That will
spending.
bankrupt us.
Yeah, it may not bankrupt us because we're in a better position, but like as far as labor goes, but the point of this project was to find something realistic for our audience and anyone looking to get into light off-roading, overlanding, and stuff like that on a small budget. And the problem with the Grand Vitara was that if you come across and well, one, parts availability was not great. Um, but if you happen to come across an issue that needs engine out, you're spending well over 2,000. Like you won't be able to do that without spending over $1,000. And yeah, parts availability, there's just not as much support. Like Grand Vitara, we're talking about the '07 and '07 to like 2010-ish range. V6, terrible on gas, but better ground clearance. Not bad and good angles. That was I kind of ended up ruling that car out just because of the serviceability aspect. It had 29-inch tires from factory, so it's got a decent size tire.
Yeah, I actually really like the Grand Vitara because I
It
like the way
looked
that
good,
it
yeah,
look, and I like the fact that it has 4 low. Because I was
yeah.
thinking like, potentially if we want to do something a little bit more serious, like the fact that it has 4 low in that center diff there, we wouldn't be running into problems where there wouldn't be power sent to the rear or whatever it may be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
One problem with the Grand Vitara though was the weight because it's about 3,700 pounds. It is quite a bit heavier than a lot of the other cars we considered. The Forester is really good for weight. The ones we were looking at, those are second gen, third gens. Only the second gen's only 3,100 pounds, and even the current model Forester is quite a bit lighter than like a RAV4. The RAV4 is like 3,700 pounds. A new Forester is like 3,500 pounds, which by today's standards for something that
it's
big and
pretty light.
practical, that still has modern safety and tech to it, really lightweight. So Forester, big weight advantage there and low center of gravity with good ground clearance. Like it's a great platform, but it's just in our budget we weren't able to find one that either had a responsive enough seller or like any existent seller realistically, or just awful condition basically. So that's
And
kind of what happened to this Forester. The one I really wanted that I was really curious about was the Jeep Patriot. Um, Jeep Patriot, my brother also, after being a Suzuki mechanic, was a Jeep Chrysler mechanic, and he's like, these cars are pretty reliable. It's a Mitsubishi World engine, 2.4 liter, 173 horsepower. It's reasonable power, but it's got a power robbing CVT on it. Doesn't drive that great, but they're reliable, cheap to work on. But we kind of had the same problem where we we couldn't find one. I wanted one that was trail rated because that gives you a little bit more ground clearance, gives you skid plates, uh, four-wheel
Freedom
drive
Drive,
lock, Freedom
yeah,
Drive
Freedom
2,
Drive 2.
better crawl ratio, and that car actually had some decent support to it, being a Jeep, even though it is kind of the softest Jeep next to the Compass. Uh, it actually had pretty decent numbers for it,
Hmm.
and I like the utilitarianness of the interior. Like I like how you can fold the seats out. I like how it's all cheap plastic. Not that cheap. I mean, it's rugged. At
Yeah.
that price range, you call it rugged, not cheap. And very simple interior. I like a lot about it. The only thing that scared me was the CVT. But yeah,
Unfortunately, so
couldn't find
for
one
the Patriot, there's only one available. And when
with
we
the trail rated
with the trail rated
package. Yeah.
package, because every other one was just either front wheel drive or the regular, and we really wanted that Freedom Drive 2. We messaged the guy, but he never responded back to us, and did.
He was actually the first time I messaged him, he had a list for $4,000 and he was responsive then, but he dropped the price to 3,500 afterwards, which, you think, okay, well, he's getting desperate to sell it, so maybe a few people looked at it and they backed out or something. And he's like, okay, well, I gotta ask less. I gotta get rid of this car. So I emailed him. I'm like, well, I'll cover the costs of putting it on the hoist, obviously, because I have a hoist. I'm like, I'll put it up. And then after that, just silence. Like, I still haven't heard back from him. Google asked me if like I want to follow up with him, but yeah, he was responsive up until I'm like, we're gonna put it up on a hoist. So that was a huge red flag.
Yeah, it's
So
it's basically telling us like, yeah, I don't want you to look underneath it. There's
yeah,
something
we don't
back.
want you to look underneath. Which realistically, we don't really need a hoist to find out. Just if the car has good bones. Um, and then Rav4. Rav4,
Well,
I
we also
wanted third gen Rav4 V6.
well before the RAV4, we're also looking at the Liberty.
Liberty is a good one, actually.
The Liberty is good, but it weighed a little bit more than we wanted to, and its fuel economy was not great. The ones that we found are a little bit more ragged than the Liberties that we can get, because we really wanted the Renegade, or at least I know I did. And then we started looking at the Grand Cherokees, but the Grand Cherokees were also expensive, and the ones that we wanted had the V8, which at this current time at $1.80 for like 87 these days doesn't seem like a good idea. And I was looking at the Honda Pilot because my dad had one, and I thought that'd be kind of cool to have a Pilot again. But we kind of ruled that out because it's super long and it's not as maneuverable. Then we're like, you know what? Maybe we can take a look at the RAV4 V6, which is initially what we wanted, because the V6 was good.
The
200
V6 is a hot rod. Like
260 horsepower or something like that.
like sub 6 seconds 0 to 60.
We wanted that,
Like,
but we
yeah.
can't find one for a good price. The cheapest
yeah, they're all
one,
over 7, I think.
the cheapest one we found was 7, and that was like at like 300 and something thousand kilometers on it, which for a Toyota, it's just broken in, right? But the engine is one thing, and everything else is another story. All the bushings and the seats, every single car, the seats were absolutely terrible in it.
Yeah.
And then we were looking at second gen RAV4s, right?
Second gen RAV4. Second gen, arguably the best looking RAV4 to date.
Yeah, even that new one. The new one's really ugly, especially hybrids.
The new one is it's like a different car. That's kind of like it's not really a RAV4 anymore. To me, it's not. It doesn't have a spare tire in the back. It's way too big. The new one.
Oh, I was like,
I'm going on with this. The fifth one, the fifth gen RAV4,
you're
which I do
right.
have.
Yes, your car is absolutely
not
ugly.
the same. Like, when we grew up, we're like, oh, RAV4 is so cool. Like, it's got a little flame on the side. Some of them, hood scoop. But yeah, the RAV4 is supposed to be small and cute and maneuverable. RAV4 second gen. So my RAV4 weighs like 3,800 pounds. Second gen RAV4 weighs 900 pounds less. It's very much a 4-seater. The current one is you can fit 5 people in there.
You can fit 5,
yeah, reasonably okay, and a decent amount of luggage. But the second gen RAV4 XA20 generation, not the best off road. And so 2001 to 2003 is a 2-liter, 2004 to 2005 is the 2.4-liter. There's a mix out there. We talked about it last week. That Midway Mazda had one that was tempted, but they didn't have a price on it. They wanted $9,000 for a manual with steely, like, polished steel wheels. I guess they weren't even like. It wasn't even like a nice trim or anything. It was pretty basic for $9,000. But yeah, we finally found one that he responded to that. We got lucky, I have to say. We got really lucky because this guy, he supposedly got 30 plus inquiries, and I saw this ad Saturday morning. I wouldn't normally wake up that early on a Saturday, but I saw it Saturday morning and I emailed him right away because I
Don't you
checked Friday night and I
don't
didn't
you
see it.
work Saturday morning?
I do work Saturday morning, but we start late. But I
Oh,
emailed him probably at like 8:30 a.m. Someone emailed him before we did. And so he's like, I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna set up appointments for uh basically in the order of when they were received. So we were number two in line. Number one guy either lowballed him or something he didn't like about the car. Obviously, being the first guy, you kind of have an advantage as far as negotiation. We looked underneath this car. So this is a 2003 RAV4 XA20 local car. Um, Two previous owners before kicking tires. So we bought it from a second owner who bought it from downtown Toyota, I believe, perhaps, or maybe he gets his service there. But he bought it from the Toyota dealership, possibly Regency, actually. He bought it from a Toyota dealership here. The first owner was a German consulate, which
or
is
so
kind of
we're
cool.
told.
We were told, but we can probably verify that. Actually, we can probably look through the paperwork.
I
Um,
don't bother care.
I haven't like there. Actually, I should show it on camera. I have this mountain of paperwork. Let's see, it's about 3 inches thick, and this car is dealer service. Like, lots of service records for it. He also serviced it himself. Uh, like I noticed, it's got all the windows are Rain-X. I noticed this yesterday, like crazy. And then he sprayed stuff all over underneath the car. But the car's got enough clearance that we were able to see at least the bones were good, right? In the alley, we could tell, okay, the frame is very clean. It's definitely a BC car. It's not something from the East Coast that was imported here and just covered and beat with salt all over the years. We could tell this is a local car. Seller was super upfront. He's like, the seller paid for a pre-purchase inspection at kind of a known shop in North Van, I believe. He paid for $150 for a pre-purchase inspection from a dealership for a car that he's selling. Like it doesn't really make sense to me a lot of what this seller did, but he has receipts from the last month of just preparing this car to sell. So very
He's a stand-up
motive.
guy.
He's a stand-up guy, like really, like he's like, come down to my place because okay, well, one thing is, uh, if you're scamming someone, you don't tell them to come find you at your house because if they, this is always my fear. You don't want to sell a crap box because uh they know where you live, obviously, when you do your transfer and everything, but
Yeah,
maybe that's not your real address. But this guy lived here.
yeah.
Um lived here, good neighborhood, uh surfer dude, but in his
Yeah.
like late 40s probably.
So
A bit of a
this
surfer dude.
this guy had so just the background of the car. I mean, for 248 or so thousand kilometers.
236.
Oh, 236.
Yeah.
It's not like it's super rough. There's not like huge dings and dents everywhere. There's dings and dents on the roof. There's dings and dents on the rear spoiler area. There's some scratches around the body, but that's really it. It's pretty clean on the outside, but the interior is immaculate.
Yeah.
I'll put up a video, I think probably this weekend, to show you exactly how good this interior is. Because he's a surfer, he put these neoprene seat covers on them, and the seats, they look like they've never been satted.
Yeah,
They're
they look
that
brand new.
good.
You can
Yeah,
go into a Toyota dealership, look at a used car, and chances are that car has dirtier seats than this car.
yeah,
Um, so everything
absolutely
was really
beautiful.
protected. Got his own floor mats somehow.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, but they have the hook on them so that they won't do the unintended acceleration.
That Toyota's known for.
Yeah,
The tires actually, so the tires looked kind of rough, but honestly, driving in the rain, they're actually pretty good
they're okay.
tires.
Okay,
They're Goodyear triple
assurance.
tread assurance tires.
I remember when this tire came out and it was like all the rage because they're like, it's good for
Yeah,
summer because it has a summer block. It's good for rain because it has a rain block, and it's good for. I guess that's really it.
light winter, perhaps. We had this tire on the XC90, and it was pretty solid as well. Um, but yeah, this car doesn't have ABS from what I've seen.
What?
Uh, I don't see an ABS module anywhere, and yeah, when we were looking underneath today, there's no proportioning valve. So,
Oh,
or I mean, there is a proportioning valve, but it's not like a computer thing. So, yeah, it doesn't have ABS, but I haven't been able to engage ABS either. So it's like I slammed on the brakes, the car just stops. Speaking of brakes, we put new brakes on it. So, beauty of a RAV4 is it's it's one of the most common cars. When we were road testing this with the guy, we probably came across 20 plus RAV4s of various
there's so
various
many.
generations. And even before we got to his place, we're like, is this a place? Because there's a ton of RAV4s in the neighborhood. So it's a super common car, meaning parts availability is going to be amazing. Uh, if you damage anything off road, chances are you're going to be able to find something in a junkyard because they sold so many of these cars. They're easy to work on. So we replace one of the things in the inspection was that, okay, the front brakes need to be done. So front brakes, brake fluid was super nice, super clean. But the front pads, the pads were pretty low because when we put in new pads, the fluid overflowed or really maxed out. It was like below max, and then it shot up quite a bit once putting in new pads. New pads, new rotors. If you were to pay retail parts and labor, I would probably charge you maybe anywhere from 250 to $300. But because we did it ourselves, we're only paying parts less than $100 to do. If you're handy, you just go on Rock Auto, buy some pads, rotors, and you're good for $100. And it just basic socket set from Canadian Tire will do the trick. Um, Same with the valve cover gasket. One of the things he pointed out in the inspection report, valve cover gasket is leaking. Took off the air box. It's clearly been leaking for a while. So same thing. We bought an OEM valve cover gasket and new iridium spark plugs from Denso. About I want to say $50 in parts, and valve cover is fixed. The valve cover job, again, if you were to pay retail, probably uh, about $200. So it's dirt cheap. Like that's the thing is we didn't want to jump into a project that's like, okay, you got to be some god level mechanic to, this is a very capable car, but you need to be equally capable to get this thing working right. And one of the things is you can buy a Forerunner for under $5,000, but they either got 500,000 Ks on them, or the frame is completely rusted
Completely
out.
rusted. Yeah.
And even Forerunners at this mileage are a lot rustier than this car. I don't know if you have any pictures of the subframe. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll try to show you a picture of that. But
I don't
front
have
and
any
rear
photos.
subframes, I definitely sent you some.
Oh,
Front and rear subframes,
let's see if I can get them.
gloss, just gloss black. The guy sprayed fluid film on them and it worked. And you can tell it's not like, so there's some cars people will just spray undercoating on and then call it a day. Like if it's a little bit rusty, you just and then you cover it up. But this car, you could tell there's very minimal surface rust, but just really well kept. Somehow for 18 years. So that subframe that that subframe could pass for 30,000 K. Like if some mechanic look under there, you could not tell this car has almost 250,000 clicks on it. It's that clean. Both front and rears look like that. Part of it has to do with the oil leaks. Oil bound to leak. Shocks, factory shocks, and they don't even look. Whatever Toyota built these cars with, I swear it's insane because the spring is factory, and generally by this age, you'd have pretty rusty springs, and everything looks really good on it. Um, we've done a lot to it already in the last 3 days that we've owned it.
I'm super surprised by that.
Yeah, because I just found gaps in the schedule. We're like, okay, we'll do the brakes, do the valve cover. full audio system. It's got sub, it's got speakers, it's got a Android Auto, it's got Apple CarPlay, it's got a backup cam, it's got a dash cam, it's got a battery pack for the dash cam, and it's got Garmin navigation now. It's got sound deadening. It's got yeah, the whole system is done now, or done enough that I'm happy enough with the sound quality that the stock speakers surprisingly were pretty awful because I remember sitting in this generation of RAV4 before and I thought they were pretty decent. So we switched them out for I had a used pair of JBL GTOs lying around. So simple, a coaxial speaker, a cheap coaxial speaker. Anyone can buy this on Amazon. Buy some cheap sound deadening material. They all work basically the same. You can spend $200 and have a nice little DIY, and the car sounds better than pretty much anything new because like a 6.5 coax with a 12-inch sub or 10-inch or 12-inch sub, like not a lot of power to it, 200 watts. It's just manufacturers these days are so concerned with packaging. But the sound system in this RAV4, most of it was handed over from my old Prius that we sold recently. But the sound system in this RAV4 now is already better than what my Supra has. The JBL system in the Supra with really awkward bass and two ugly ass subwoofers and 3.5-inch door woofers. Like I don't know. Somehow this budget build is a better sounding setup, in
I
my opinion.
I just want to say yes. While Justin has a shop and everything is really done there, everything that has been done doesn't require a shop. So
Yeah.
like the valve cover gaskets, the spark plugs, like everything that we've done here does not require a shop to do.
Mhm.
Everyone can DIY all of this to their vehicle, no matter what vehicle it really is. And
Yeah.
I want to stress that part because we are this kicking tires soft rotor project. What this is really about is, a cheap way for us to have fun.
Hmm.
And I want to make sure that, it's a cheap way for not only just us, but for a lot of people that, want to just go out there and explore. Here living in BC, I mean, it's on our license plate. It's beautiful British Columbia. Why not explore a little bit of it? Why not go out there a little bit more? A lot of people stay within the city, and that's perfectly fine. But this entire project, it's about going out there with something relatively inexpensive, reliable, having fun with all your friends, doing whatever you want to do out there and getting back home safely. That's really why we have this.
Yeah. And it's a car that's totally livable. Like I've been dailying it for the past 3 days, and it's everything works. Power windows, everything,
So,
everything is what I want out of a daily driver.
context, this guy has a 2021 Supra that he's not driving for a 2003 RAV4. Just for
I also have a
context,
better rev.
he also he also has
Sorry.
a arguably a better, more fuel efficient RAV4 that he's
It's
not
faster and
driving.
safer and bigger.
That he's not driving because he likes this more. All right, so
I don't.
he
Okay, you're
maybe you
putting
like the
words.
experience a little bit.
Yeah, but honestly, like with a bit of sound ending, this is already quieter than a new Rav4.
Hmm.
Like, like when the hybrid engine kicks in, it's like, and with a little bit of sound ending on the front doors already, I'm like, oh, the front half of this cabin is quiet. Like the engine is so smooth. The transmission is smooth. I think it's a 4-speed with overdrive.
Overdrive, yeah,
And
that
so I
makes sense.
hear 4 separate shifts. It feels like there's a fifth gear. And on the highway, it's pretty reasonable. I think at 100K, you're doing about 2,500.
That's not bad.
Fuel economy is not great from what I've seen. It's already dropped a quarter tank, but I think the tank might be small on this
I
thing
think the tank's probably pretty small.
for fuel tank. The biggest obstacle now is going to be
Ground clearance.
ground clearance and tires. Wait, the tank is not small. They're saying 14.7 gallons.
Is that
That's not
55?
55, 56 liters. It's not even a small tank.
Hmm.
Okay, so maybe I'm gonna do a actual fuel economy test. I'm gonna fill it up, run it for a few days, and then check what we're at. So far, fuel economy is not that impressive, but this car is from 20 years ago, right? This engine is a 20-year-old engine. We have been idling a little bit, doing different various inspections and whatever. So and it's only been driven about 50K since we picked it up. So
Wait,
my
did he give
commute
us a
is
full tank?
no, it was like almost full.
Oh, okay.
It was maybe
Man,
like 6/8, seven
the
eighths of a
the
tank.
seller is really nice. Like,
Seller was really nice. He emailed me the day after. He's like, "Oh, you could do this, this, this. If you want
didn't
to
he give
fix
you?
this."
Yeah, he gave you a parts list of all the
Yeah,
suspension.
like some research that he did of like what he wanted to, if he were to have kept it, what he would have done. Really good seller that even lowballed himself because I offered him a certain price and he undercut my offer by $50. So
Well, if you want to find out more about that, a video will be posted on
yeah.
Saturday, probably, of that experience. And
Mhm.
yes,
It was
and
it was an odd experience, but a pleasant one nonetheless.
but I guess that's really it for this week.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we will keep teasing updates here and there. Follow us on Instagram. Follow the Kicking Tires. Well, J.Mak reviews. There's no Kicking Tires
If you
Instagram
search
account.
kicking tires, you'll find it.
Yeah, you'll find us, and yeah, hopefully, I want to get uh the lift in and the tires in soon. We haven't bought anything yet. We haven't, or we're still doing some research. But we have some, weekends coming up before it gets too cold. I want to get this thing out there. Um, yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll chat with you again next week. Take care.